It's Monday, April 1st, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Thanks for joining us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Authorities at the island's Child Care Protection Agency expressed concern about the increasing number of minors having sex with other minors at schools. Coordinator of the Child Abuse Program at the Child Care Board, Roxanne Sanderson Weeks, tells Barbados Today the situation was particularly prevalent at certain schools outside of the St. Michael catchment area. She says what is even more worrying was the age of those involved in this activity. Most of them, she says, are under the age of 10.
And we're seeing a lot of them coming out to the primary schools where you have young children. And it is sexual abuse in a sense because they're either seeing it or hearing it or exposed to it in some way. So it is sexual abuse from that aspect. But now you come into school and you know performing this act on somebody else, another child, it is two minors. So we see a lot of that where you have to do a lot of counseling and talking. And this is where you need to continually reinforce within the school system. That there's the need to work on do this kind of thing. I don't have to hear. There's the need to there is the need to have this kind of discussion in the schools so that the schools so that it reinforces proper, sexual behaviors and so within the school system.
She also revealed that officers of the Protection Agency are also reporting a high rate of fondling of younger children, not only by adults, but also by other children, that's older children. And on another issue, Sanderson Weeks stoutly defended the Child Care Board for not handling cases involving a parent who was being denied access to their children.
The issue of access is not a Child Care Board remit. And that is something I've heard people say that go to Child Care Board for access. That's not our role. That is a role of the Welfare Department, not the Child Care Board. Because the Welfare Department, under the law, has the legal grounds to deal with access cases.
Barbadian Corey Lane was among 4 awarded the Anthony N. Sabger Caribbean Awards for Excellence 2019. The other awardees honored during a ceremony at Sandals Royal Barbados over the weekend are Arts and Letters Laureate Daniel D. Fentala of Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaican Kimala Bennett, Laureate in Entrepreneurship, and Professor Michael Taylor, also a Jamaican, who is the Laureate in Science and Technology. Addressing the ceremony attended by Governor General Dame Sandra Mason and Prime Minister Mia Motley, Executive Chairman of the Ansa Macau Group, Norman Sabger, said it was his hope that the awards inspired others to follow in the footsteps of the 2019 honorees.
There's a proverb, and I quote, "Generation after generations will live on our dreams. What we do and say today will have an impact on whatever happens tomorrow." End of quotation. This proverb embodies everything that these awards stand for. By honoring those of today that create a powerful and inspirational change that will impact the lives of generations to come, we hope to not only congratulate them on their achievements, but more so to inspire others to follow in their footsteps.
Meantime, Lane, who was awarded in Public and Civic Contribution, thanked officials for the honor.
Because I think it is important that we can look inward and reward excellence from inward, because I believe that unwittingly and subconsciously, a lot of these great awards come externally. And it reinforces, again, unwittingly, an inferiority and a superiority that does not need to be reinforced. And that when we can look on our own and say, well done, at such a prestigious level, I say thank you, and you should take a bow.
Private sector officials are being urged to play a greater role in the transformation of the Barbados economy. It's coming from Director of the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation, Melanie Jones. She says it is critical that the business community generate foreign exchange.
The enlightened management of business and compliance with best-in-class business practices is an absolute imperative, a duty and an obligation within the private sector as we support Barbados' economic recovery. And I think it is also imperative, this sounds like old knowledge, but you can't make this list without including it. It is imperative that the private sector focus on business lines that generate foreign exchange. The reasons for that, we could talk about that in more detail, but we all know why we have to do that. And lastly, I think that the private sector has an absolutely vital role in nurturing human capital and developing human capital in Barbados. So we've long made an investment in education in Barbados, but on top of that, the private sector has a role then to do the work and layer the work in the professional and working world to make sure that all of our people are further nurtured and developed in roles in the private sector.
Jones also argued that Barbados' foreign exchange regime has long been a hindrance to the country becoming a world-class economy. She made the comments recently at a business forum organized by the Barbados Coalition of Service Industries at the Savannah Hotel.
For Barbados to be a world-class economy, we cannot continue to operate in this severely constrained environment. One of the key recommendations of the task force that I worked on was a 3-year phased elimination of exchange controls. I won't go into the detail. I will say that it is understood that there are so many important priorities to be addressed by our government that not everything can be at the top and not everything can be attended to right away. But I'm sure you will all join me in thinking that the changes relating to exchange control as it regulates the individuals dealing with foreign currency in Barbados that were announced in our very recent budget are encouraging indeed, and I think that it is fair for us to be optimistic about further amelioration of exchange control.
A top economist says authorities must pay attention to the dwindling population, hinting that it could create serious problems for the future national pension schemes. Director of Economics at the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Justin Ram, says it was of particular concern for the financial institution. He was speaking recently at the 10th Domestic Financial Institutions Conference held at the Grand Salle.
This is quite concerning, huh? In Jamaica, we expect to see by 2100 a 50% decline in population. In Barbados, we're estimating about a 10% decline in population. Folks, it's important for us to pay particular attention to this now, because this will bite us particularly hard if we don't do something about it. Because you have to think about who will pay for those pensions. In this population decline, there's a significant proportion of that population who will be older and retired. And we have to think about what's going to be the dependency ratio.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from St. Lucia, an archbishop urges members of the public to stop the acts of intolerance towards members of the LGBT community. The appeal comes on the heels of a recent suspected suicide of a young man who identified as gay. We get more in this report from HTS News Force.
Archbishop Robert Rivers says sexual orientation should not be the focus. Instead, the society needs to determine the underlying causes of suicide.
What people's sexual preferences are is not really, if you're talking suicide, should not be the first issue. I think the first issue is, what is it that motivates people to commit suicide or lead people into suicide?
The church believes that suicide is a grave offense against life, specifically the fifth commandment of God. Archbishop Rivers speculates that feelings of hopelessness may lead to suicide.
Very often what happens is that people reach to the edge of the cliff, and they don't see any way else for their lives, and they take the plunge.
And finally, on the international scene, a comedian with no political experience raced ahead in Ukraine's presidential election on Sunday, offering a fresh face for voters. The political hopeful Volodymyr Zelensky spoke with the BBC following the first round of voting.
What's your reaction to these exit polls?
Great. This is the first fight.
Don't stop, please. Let's go.
Yes, I'm very happy. I'm here, but this is not the final action. So the final will be what I saw, but we'll see the result. This is exit poll. I saw the result. This will be the Mr. President, the Mr. Barbados.
And if you win, what will be your priority as president?
Corruption first, war in Donbass, and скасувати недоторканність. How to say immunity?
Immunity of politicians.
Yes, for everyone.
Okay, and you sure you'll win in the second round?
I think so.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Exumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good morning.